on the internet.
Hello and welcome to Tabletop Terrain Talks, where we talk about tabletop gaming terrain and other nerdy things. We are your resident nerdy couple, Hayley and Weston Bell.
We're the resident nerdy couple?
I have decided. Well, we have residency where we live, so we're the resident nerdy couple. We're the resident nerdy couple of Twitch. How about that?
Yeah, I don't know another nerdy couple.
I don't know another nerdy couple on Twitch. If you know of another nerdy couple that is vying for the title of resident nerdy couple,
throw it in the chat.
On Twitch. Seriously, though. Okay. Anyway, hi, you guys. Happy New Year.
New Year.
First episode of the new year. So exciting. Yes. We hope your new year was awesome and wonderful and heavenly. Ours was.
Oh, we got John already.
Hey, John.
We got,
then there's the attending nerdy couples. What do you mean attending? I'm confused.
I don't either.
We'll pretend I got that. Yes, exactly. No, but our New Year's was actually pretty good. We spent a lot of time just chilling over the weekend.
And then we played on Friday night.
Yep, New Year's Eve.
Scions.
Super fun. We continued our crawl into the...
You see, that's when I said we have residency. I thought of residents like doctors.
Oh, attendings. Oh, I get it. Are they higher than residents? The attendings?
Yeah,
Isn't the attendings higher than residents?
Yes.
Yes.
The attending physician is generally,
higher.
They're a full physician.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I love it. So, so we had a good one.
I think 2022 so far, we can say, is doing well.
And I can say, honestly, I have not shopped on Amazon so far this whole year. The whole entire year. You've
now gone the whole year without shopping on Amazon.
Shopping on Amazon. I didn't.
Not without going to the Dollar Tree.
No, I've definitely gone to the Dollar Tree at least twice. At least. Dollar Tree is my favorite store. Anyway, welcome to the new year. We are very excited to be here in the new year. We have a bunch of new things planned for this year, including a brand new campaign setting that Weston and I are writing together. Some guests. Possible guests. Some famous people. Who knows? But we have a lot of things planned. We're really excited. First off, though, we have a goal for our YouTube channel.
Yes.
Our YouTube channel is currently under 100 subscribers, which means we can't change the URL yet.
We just have that weird set of characters.
Hi! Oh my gosh, Ben! It's Babe.
I know.
You know what Ben is. Hi. Anyway, so our YouTube channel, I'm sorry, I got really distracted. It currently has one of those really weird things that's like
alphanumeric.
UCU XFL 5Q whatever. And we really, really would like to get to 100 subscribers so we can change it to a vanity URL.
We're vain.
We're
and
very
we like
vain.
it as a vanity one.
So, I am going to drop the link.
Drop it like it's hot.
In the chat. And if you would like to go over it really quick and just subscribe, that would be awesome.
No, we're not giving you the option. It's not if you like. If you have not already subscribed,
okay.
Now, I will give you permission. We will pause everything important we're talking about for the next 20 seconds.
They can go over to YouTube and still be listening to us.
Oh, you took away the emphasis there.
I'm sorry.
Wind out of my sails.
I'm sorry. Anyway, so that is going to be our main push for the beginning of the year, is getting more subscribers on our YouTube channel, because we're also going to be creating content on our YouTube channel that is specific to gaming for two people, gaming for couples and partners, and also some fun world building things. So head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe. John, I subbed like 40 years ago. I'm very glad that you did.
If I could sub harder,
I totally would. I know. Anyway, it's going to pop up through the stream, so just encourage others to subscribe if you see it. Anyway, what other announcements do we have? Our VOD is going to be for our episode on this last Friday, including our after discussion about kind of our new campaign and the things that we're going to be doing with it. That goes live tomorrow morning on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
The VOD. So that'll be there. And also, I'm releasing a new episode every day at 9 a.m. until we get completely caught up with Tabletop Terrain Talks, TTRPG News, and the Scions, which the Scions is pretty much up to date. But yeah, because I didn't realize people actually really liked watching these until people started asking me like where the VODs were for certain episodes. And I was like, oh, okay.
It was kind of cool.
People actually like it.
we had an individual who is part of a, I would say, professional or at least very high paid stream. Asked
like they had like real money behind them.
Yeah, they asked to see the episode if we would post it, and so we posted it. And they were like, they asked it was the episode about our professional actual plays ruining kind of the industry.
Yeah.
And they were in total agreement with us.
Yeah, and that's to date, that's been our best. It has almost 100 views. It's our best performing show.
Is it? Nice.
So far. It's just really exciting. Apparently people like to talk about that. Anyway, so I think that's pretty much all that we have for announcements.
I think so.
Yeah, so we are going to go to TTRPG News now.
All right, and
go.
Welcome to tonight's TTRPG News.
I'm not being professional.
I am your host, Weston, and Hayley's dancing.
The music is nice. I feel like I'm either like in a jazz lounge or whatever. Okay.
I feel like I'm in an elevator.
That as well. So, TTRPG news for this week. We thought for sure it was going to be a super slow week and that there was not going to be hardly any news, but there were a couple of things that dropped this week that were very cool. First off being D&D official, like Wizards of the Coast, is releasing a D&D rules expansion gift set. So this is really intense, you guys. This has a lot of things. So there's a DM screen. There's a brand new DM screen in it, which looks very cool. It's a beautiful work of art that they've done that way for the DM screen. It comes with the 5th edition versions of Xanthar's Guide to Everything, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and includes the debut of Monsters of the Multiverse. The comprehensive resource for players and DMs alike, containing over 30 updated player character races and a massive bestiary with over 250 redesigned monsters and stat blocks, all for the use in any D&D world, which is really cool because that means you can use it in 3.5, which our new campaign is going to be in.
I guess you could. I mean, you'd have to, definitely convert
a few things, but not many.
Well, no, for D&D 3.5 versus 5e is very different. I think when it says any D&D world, I think it's meaning more
not
the different worlds they
never
have,
mind.
not additions. Very different.
Guys, never mind.
I've been studying up on my 3.5. I like some things in 3.5.
3.5 is nice. We like it. So each of the 3 books in the Dungeon Master screen features special foil covers, available only through this release. So this is the only time you're going to be able to get through it or get to it. So for the important bits, it is being released January 25th, 2022, and the price is not something I'd be willing to pay, but it's $169.95.
Yeah, it is pronounced bestiary.
It's bestiary. It's a beast. They're beasts. It's a bestiary. I will never call it a bestiary ever.
Because it's not a best. It's a beast.
I'm just saying. Anyway, John, you and I are going to have to agree to disagree on that one. Even if you're right, I'm still going to say bestiary. Anyway, so it is in pre-orders right now. You can get it through Amazon. Let me see all of the different ones. So your local store, your local gaming store, if they get those in, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Books A Million, and of course always through the Dungeons & Dragons website.
What Books A Million?
I don't know. Hold on, let me go look. I've never heard of Books A 1 Million. It's a bookstore. It's an online bookstore. So anyway, it's very exciting. So if you are into that kind of thing or you're wanting to gift D&D to somebody else, that would be a really good thing to have. On to you, Westy Ton.
All right. So for our Warhammer fans out there, because I know there are some, there is a new box set that is being released. It's an Eldritch Omens. I don't even know what that means. I have not played Warhammer, but it says Eldritch Omens, a desperate war on a doomed world. It includes, it says new box will be hitting shelves in early 2022 with 15 new miniatures inside. GW reveals a lot about Eldritch Omens already over multiple posts. So they're, okay, wait. I thought that had oh, there it is. This battle box contains 60 miniatures, a whopping 15 of which are all new. The 16th is a mighty smoke-belching Forge Fiend. I don't know what that means, but if you like Warhammer, I'm sure you're excited.
That just sounds cool. A Forge Fiend.
You also apparently get a 32-page Eldritch Omens booklet that outlines the narrative of the battle. So it's lore. So you get some nice lore there. It is being released early this year. I don't think they have a date yet. And I was not actually able to even to find the freaking price.
Let me see if I can find it.
You'd think that they would be like, oh yeah, cost this much. Pre-order. No.
Let me see. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, wait. They give me the pricing breakdown. Total estimated value.
That's very different than the actual price.
Yeah, I'm like, they do this whole sales thing where it's like, what's the box worth before they
tell you how much it costs.
Apparently they don't know yet, but the last box set went for $170. They expect it to be somewhere similar.
Yeah, with that many minis and stuff like that, and with Warhammer being so mini heavy,
yes, that's mini heavy.
That's going to be a big deal.
All right.
Okay, so the next really cool thing, which of course is mine to talk about, is Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt. So the video game, not the TTRPG, it finally has a release window. Now, this was announced a little while ago at the Game Awards.
No, the game originally was announced in 2019.
Yes.
We've been waiting a long time for this one.
And there was a Vampire the Masquerade game that was released that did really, it was panned.
Oh, the one back in the day?
Yeah, it was really, really bad. People didn't like it, so they're kind of trying to revitalize it. But it finally has a release window. Not a date, but a window of spring of 2022 for PlayStation 5 and PC. So it's going to be released on console and on PC. So if you are either of those types of gamers, then you're awesome.
I know for me, this one looked interesting. I saw some early stuff on it back last year. Mm-hmm. When they were first talking about it.
When they were teasing it and acting like it was happening.
Like that, but then everything slowed down. COVID slowed everything down.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see what this one's like. Graphically, it looked interesting.
Yeah, well, and Vampire the Masquerade has a very rich lore base, which is really exciting. So for those of us who don't have the attention span to sit and read an entire lore book, this might be kind of a fun way to figure it out. Also, in completely unrelated news, but is a nerdy thing that I'm excited about, Hogwarts Legacy is getting closer to having a release date.
They still don't have a release date.
They're kind of nudging towards it, and things are coming out about it, but yeah.
All right, and last piece here. So we found out, and they just dropped a trailer for their early access for something called Adventure Roll.
This looks so cool.
If you haven't heard of Adventure Roll, go Google it. It's an early access right now. I'm going to try and explain what this thing is. So you generally play, a lot of us play video games. We played our video game RPGs. We love them. But
like Skyrim and all those, yeah.
But then you've got D&D, where the GM does everything and he's got complete control and you have ability to do whatever you want. What if you could marry them together? So this is a situation to where the GM can design the custom worlds, but then you as a player create your character in the same character maker you generally would spend in RPGs. And then you as a player play out in first person or third person view as you're used to in video games like Skyrim.
So the DM flushes out the world and you go play in it.
And they control it. They are controlling the narrative and everything as you go through. You've got mics to speak to each other. It is the marrying of video game technology and tabletop gaming in one system. It looks really interesting.
It looks very cool.
I really question like the learning curve as the GM on that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty high.
But it looked gorgeous, so I would go check that out.
Yeah, the animation looks really good. It's not like the animation you would expect from something like an Elder Scrolls game. It's not going to be that high level because everything is going to be a little bit different up to the GM.
Yeah.
So the variables there is really, really high. But if you watch the trailer, the graphics for the gameplay are actually really impressive.
Well, it's like you've got Tailspire, but Tailspire still keeps everything looking like it's a tabletop game with a miniature.
Yeah.
This takes it that next level to where it's animated like a video game is as you walk through it.
Yeah.
So Kevbot just looked at
Hi,
it. Looks pretty sweet.
Hi, Kev.
I just found out about it today, looked it up, and I was like, what is this thing?
It looked Weston. He grabbed me and he was like, "Watch this trailer." And I just sat there and I was just like, "This looks amazing! Like, I really want to play it." So right now it's in beta mode, so you actually can early access. Sorry, not beta. But you can go and sign up to get access to it and play it. And we might actually do that because I would really like to see how this works.
Maybe if we
cool.
ask them, "Hey, can we get early access?" We'll cover it on our show. We'll see.
Well, yes, our show that thousands of people watch every week.
Can I link the trailer thingy? Let me go find it.
Yeah, Weston will go find it. And I think that is all for our TTRPG news today. There is no indie roundup this week because of the holiday. We were a little bit into family time, and so I didn't jump on that. But we will make up for it next week, and we will have the indie roundup next week. So if you know anybody that
sneezes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. If you know anybody that creates or does anything really cool, or if you yourself are a creator, please shoot us an email at partyoftworpg@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter at partyoftworpglive, or my personal Twitter that I'm on way more, which is Hayley M_Bell.
Yeah, I don't get on Twitter very often.
Weston has a Twitter.
I do.
He knows what Twitter is.
I twatter.
Anyway, thank you, Ben. Oh my gosh, sneezers. Hi, Joel. Oh my gosh, I love you guys so much.
All right. So
that's it for TTRPG news today.
So before we get into our main discussion, though, we do have to give a plug and a shout out to our sponsor.
Yes.
GameGearMaster.com, makers of the Terrain modular system. During our discussion tonight, I will actually be working on some of my templates for the system.
Which you can see in our craft cam.
Yeah, you can see that here as I work on them. This is a wonderful system that we use for all of our terrain. It allows you to make really gorgeous terrain.
Beautiful.
At a really inexpensive price with very simple materials that you can get from your dollar store.
The Dollar Tree.
So let's go ahead and run that.
Have you ever wanted terrain at your table or for your online games but found it either too expensive to buy or too intimidating or time-consuming to make? Well, you're not alone. This is why thousands of gamers in over 30 countries have embraced the Terraino modular terrain system. All you'll need is a handful of techniques and tools to make Terraino pieces. And most of those terrain pieces are less than 10 cents a piece. What makes this all possible? The Terraino construction manuals at GameGearMaster.com. They're included tools and templates printable on any home, office, or retail store printer. They're clear, concise, written instructions and the accompanying tutorial videos take out the guesswork and make building pieces as fast and easy as tracing, cutting, and gluing. Get started in seconds by downloading the Terraino construction manuals at GameGearMaster.com. Happy crafting!
So that is GameGearMaster.com. If you go there and use the promo code PARTY2, you actually get 10% off of the manuals.
Yep. And we have a lot of fun with Jake.
We do. We have
He's
him on
awesome.
the show regularly.
Yeah, and we've had him on the show twice, and both of those episodes are up on our YouTube channel. Which, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, go subscribe. Our goal is to have 100 subscribers so we can change the URL to a vanity URL. Please go and subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. Anyway, so Weston, what are we talking about tonight?
All right, so tonight, one of the biggest things of being a GM or a player on a game that is, especially if you're going to be a streamer, if you're going to try and engage people to watch or listen, is you got to have interesting characters.
What?
You can't have two-dimensional boring characters.
Well, but what if my character is a tortured soul and does not talk very often because when they talked in the past, they got in trouble for it, so they keep their mouth shut all the time?
Okay, is this character played by Liam O'Brien? Like, his tortured soul is what he does all the time. Yep. So
no, I don't think Orem in this latest campaign is a tortured soul.
He is
Orem is kind of
I haven't watched
happy
the last
guy.
couple episodes, but that's the thing. It's like, and the tortured soul. My gosh, can okay.
John is saying boring.
There's a reason that it exists. Yeah, but come on. That's so boring. I want to play so badly. I want to play a character. And I've talked about this.
He has talked about this so much.
I don't know if this is the same one you're thinking about. I want to play a character. No.
Oh, okay.
I want to play a character who comes from a happy family, who lived it happily his whole life, but they read him adventure stories, so he wanted to be an adventurer. But he knew that adventurers had to have a tragic backstory. So he goes around making up different tragic backstories every time you talk to him.
So it's like
none of them are. They're all different.
So it's like the Joker, where he told, "You want to know how I got these scars?"
Yes.
He told a different story every time.
Exactly, that type of thing.
That would be hilarious.
It's like, oh, back in my torture past when my parents died in the fire. Wait, you told me that your parents were, killed by goblins. The goblins burned them. Like, I want to do that because the tortured soul who has no family left alive, or his parents kicked him out because of some other. Come on, please. Done too much. Try again.
It is done. It is done really a lot. But I feel like if you can do it well, do it. But most people can't do it well because it just becomes a cliche and kind of tropey.
Becomes a trope. So we wanted to talk about how do you make a character that is interesting, engaging, and memorable. Because that's not always an easy thing to do.
No, it's not. It can be really difficult, especially if you are playing a longer campaign and you're wanting a longer draw out of your character's backstory and different things that they've done. Like, how do you play that a longer period of time versus, it's fairly easy to create a character for a one shot that's really spunky and has a lot of personality and whatnot, but it might be a little bit more difficult if you're doing a longer campaign because you have to root your character in realism with a longer campaign. So an example with this, one of my favorite characters to play outside of Anduriana in our long campaign,
Izzy.
Her name is Izzy, and she is 5'2". She has long blonde hair
And eyes are blue.
and did I ever say she had eyes
Yes.
are blue? Did I? Okay, well, her eyes are blue. Okay, and she has a warhammer or a greatsword, depending on what I'm playing, that is the same size as her, and she's super, super innocent until she starts killing people, and then she bathes in the blood of her victims. She's a little bloodthirsty when it comes down to it. But then she doesn't like to be covered in blood and ichor, so she kind of acts prissy as well. So she is one of my favorite characters to play because she's so the opposite of me. And she's hilarious and so much fun. But she was written really for a one-shot. She wasn't written with a ton of depth, and so as I've played her more for other one-shots and other things, I've added more to her character and I've given her a little bit more depth. But she is so much fun because she's the complete opposite of who I am.
Yeah, you're always a little more. I mean, you're fun and happy, but you're a little bit. There's a little broody there.
I've definitely got the brood.
There's a little dark broody.
I got the broody vampire thing going on very well.
She watched too much Angel in her younger years.
No, it was
Angel
more
Buffy.
like Anne Rice.
Oh,
that Lestat and stuff.
too many interviews with a vampire.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so Kev said Izzy was the MVP on the death grind for charity. Don't tell the others.
I love something John Doom says earlier. He says he played a paladin who was a homemaker on a farm with 5 kids and a loving husband. It just so happened that her god literally tapped her. I think he just tapped her for a holy mission. She was so happy with her family, and with her whole goal was to just finish the mission and get back home.
That is really cool because that gives your character a motivation, like a built-in motivation of going home and getting back to your family. I actually really like that.
Well, and it creates a situation to where you're going to be like emotional about certain things, and you're going to care a lot. Because that's the thing is the broody. The reason people always like to do the broody is because it's like, oh, you want to hear about my past.
Hear about my tragic past.
But like this one's like,
can't even do that without smiling.
I know. That backstory right there, it's like, crap, we're going in here. I can't die. Because that's the other thing is, as adventurers in these games, a lot of times you're running into danger. Okay, and what's your reason for self-preservation? Because generally, if you're Daredevil running into danger,
if you're the devil may care,
what's your reason for self-preservation other than, oh, dying would hurt? Something more than that really helps create a motivation, which brings us again to our first important thing is, what's your character's motivation? Why is your character doing anything that they're doing?
I feel like we just entered acting class.
We did. Okay.
What is your motivation in this scene?
What motivates your character to go adventuring?
Yeah.
The most annoying thing is like, okay, well, why are we going to go do this? Well, because we're adventurers. Really? That's it? Wow, that's boring. Like, I get that this is D&D or this is Pathfinder, this is TTRPG, and you're going to be inclined to go on the adventure because that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But for Pete's sake, whether you're the GM or the
reason?
player, come with a better reason than, haha, I am adventurer.
Well, and I feel like with what you just said too, the GM also has a part in this outside of just GMing the story. If the characters or if their PCs are kind of floundering for motivation on certain things, give them motivation as the DM or the GM. So I heard this once when I was talking about this on Twitter, and there was this really long thread, and somebody said what the number one thing that they'll do is they create an NPC that really endears them to the party and then kills them. And so then that creates a natural motivation. It's the Agent Coulson effect.
Yes.
Where the motivation now for the party is to avenge the death of this NPC that they really love. So that's a really good thing to do as a DM and a GM as well. And that comes with experience, and that comes with time of just being able to read your characters and your players and knowing like,
well, that's like we were running.
Right
one of the first campaigns I ran with our family was Rise of the Rune Lords, which is a Pathfinder. It's a classic Pathfinder first edition adventure path. And it starts out, you're at the festival as usual. You know, why are you all there?
You want to go to the festival.
It's the King's Festival. But you're there at the festival and goblins attack. Okay. But there's one thing that they wrote into it that I wanted to play up. And looking back, I should have played this up like 10 times more.
Way more.
When the goblins show up, goblins hate dogs. And there's this dog that's underneath one of the carriages. And the goblin just comes over and guts the thing right in front of you.
Oh, it made me so mad.
It did. And I played it up a little bit to get you and your mother engaged in the game. Because you guys were kind of like,
Well, my character I was playing her kind of that broody, like, I have a tortured past. I'm running from my father.
Dampier.
She was a Dampier, and she was running from her vampiric father who wanted her to take over the family business.
Yeah.
Like, I played her really broody. That was stupid. If I went back, I would play her very differently now.
But I was like, okay, what will they care about? Dead doggies. Dead doggies will motivate these people, because it's not just the and this is the great advantage when it's people you've played with before is, yeah, you gotta know the character's motivation, but know the players too.
Yeah, if you know that something, like as the GM, if you know something is going to rile up your player, like Weston knows dogs and children. Dogs and children. You mess with dogs and children in any of these campaigns, I will come down and rain hellfire on your ass.
And I have messed with doggies and children.
He has done both. And my character, thankfully, she has real motivation to be angry about children being hurt. But yeah. So what's the difference then, do you feel like, between creating a character for a one-shot and creating a character for a longer campaign?
The big difference, personally, I don't see there's a huge difference, but the main thing is you got to know, if you're creating a character for one shot, know you're not going to get out anything about your character. So it's like, people, I pour all this heart into this. I wrote 2 pages of backstory. I want this to come out. But there's no time for your lore drops. No, there's no in a 3-hour game. Like, so I did a charity stream last weekend for Jasper's Game Day, which was wonderful. I got to be DM'd by Jake at Q Times, which was like such a big deal for me. I'm a really big fan. And it was so funny because it was like 3 hours and it was pretty much combat the whole time. Yeah. And it was so much fun, and my character was ridiculous. So, like, for me, when I create characters for one-shots, I create very over-the-top, ridiculous characters. For a one-shot, they're the funnest because they allow you to show personality in the short period of time. Whereas if you've got a deeper character, it's going to take you a while.
Okay, I kind of like what John's saying here. It's like, so in a one-shot, you should provide pre-gens, and those pre-gens should have some relationship that could be described in one sentence with another of the players or NPC involved in the story to, give a little bit more. Well, like, Joel and I did that for our one-shot on his channel. We had our characters were connected to each other. I was like his protector. That's where Izzy made her first appearance. Yes. Izzy and Bucky. That was the 2 of them. And she was his protector. And he was an old bard, seated. It was really sweet. Joel, if you're still on, we need to play those characters again. I miss them. But yeah, I feel like that's something that can really help enhancing is if you get with another person on a one shot and be like, hey, let's have our characters like know each other.
Well, then it allows someone to bounce things off of, to interact with. There's one thing that's in some character creation sheets that I really like. It's what's your catchphrase?
Yes.
I like the catchphrases, especially for one-shots, because it allows for...
Hi, Darren. I haven't seen you in a bit. Hi, love. Sorry, now I'll read your comment. I just saw your name.
I do feel it leads to a number crunch style of character. Numbers are the only thing that matter for those characters. And I do agree, Darren, but that's where you can make things really interesting if you throw in some character.
Yeah.
But that's where catchphrases are fun. Being able to throw those in there will, how do you do things interestingly? And that's one other thing is, even in combat, if you're doing a combat only game, let's say there's almost no role play happening, all that stuff. You can still roleplay your combat by giving it style. As long as your GM's not like, oh no, this is the way that it is. Like, you can change things up, but then not change the damage. Like, it doesn't change the damage done, but you can change a lot of things in how the spell looks. It's like, I remember a one shot that I did with some friends of ours. And he was playing a druid. He was a Leshy druid. And he wild-shaped into a bear. And I was like, okay, describe your bear. And so he started describing the bear. I'm like, yeah, but your fur's green, right? Like, you're a Leshy. And so then all of a sudden you've got this image of this grass-covered, leaves growing out different parts bear. And suddenly it was a character, not just an ability.
Yeah.
This is one a great example. Critical Role gets brought up in a lot of things, but Jester from the last campaign. It says, I know in Pathfinder, I'm not sure if it says this in D&D, but in Pathfinder it says that it becomes the spiritual weapon, the weapon of your deity when you cast that as a cleric.
Yeah,
but
and you can choose it to be anything.
The lollipop, that changed different ways.
Gosh, yes.
It was different each time, the same amount of damage. But it's like this lollipop, and then the spiritual guardians, whatever, are these little unicorns. All of a sudden, that's not a spell from D&D. That's Jester's spell.
Yeah.
And that customization, it's like I know for you in your last one shot, the way that you cast spells was you had a conducting baton.
Yeah, so my last character was a bard, and she was a performance-focused bard, and she was also a sprite, a luminous sprite, so she literally glowed, and she was about, yay big, about the size of a large Barbie, and she had a corgi mount. Her mount was a corgi. It was so cute. But to have her cast all of her somatic spells, I had her have a conductor's baton, and that was how she did all of her spells, was like conducting an orchestra. And that was honestly, that was on the fly.
And it was
that was
great.
100% on the fly, because I didn't know how I looked at the spell that I wanted to cast, and I was like, oh crap, it's somatic and verbal.
What
am I doing?
I do wish you had sung more in that.
I know.
Your voice, you don't allow yourself to sing. You're always worried about the mic.
I'm a trained opera singer and have a really loud voice.
Call those changes trappings. Yeah, it's a real fantastic way to change your character. Well, it's like one thing, who is my main character in our campaign. One of the spell combos I came up with that I love is there's a spell in Pathfinder, the recently in their Secrets of Magic, that's called Organ Sight. It allows you to see the organs and do precision damage by hitting specific spots on them. So what I did is he's medically trained, he's a medic. When I use telekinetic projectile, I lift a scalpel out of my medical kit, and then I do telekinetic projectile with a scalpel while my organ sight's going. And I felt like that was so...
So you can just go cut the artery.
I felt that was so fitting for as a medical...
Yeah, well, and an incredibly analytical character as well.
Yeah, and so that fit him. It all of a sudden brought the spell, exposed the character.
So for one-shots, going back to that question, so for one-shots, it's kind of like get to know your character's quirks pretty well, and then play those really hard when you're in a one-shot, because it's so much fun to go above and beyond ridiculous. But if you're doing a longer campaign, looking at your spells or your skill set is going to help you get into your character, and you think, okay, what's my character's motivation? Why do they have this spell to begin with? Because a lot of for sorcerer, you have to learn, prepare the spell or whatever in the morning. So there's that question of why are we preparing these ones specifically, and why do we have to have those in here? And over time, you can begin to build more of the depth of the character because you have time.
Yes.
And one-shots, let's be totally honest, there's no deep role play in one-shots.
There is, okay, I've got to do something that gets me out there real fast. It's very much like going into a job interview, and it's like, hey, you got 30 seconds to make them pay attention to you as opposed to the other applicants, or you're done. So you got to go in there and you got to do something interesting. That's where you mentioned the bard character that I thought of.
Oh my gosh, I want to do a one-shot with Weston as this bard so bad.
So if you are acquainted with the show Full Metal Alchemist, the anime, there's a character in there called Captain Louis Armstrong. And when I was thinking about how would I build Armstrong, it's like he should be a bard. Because what Captain Louis Armstrong does every time that someone is looking down is he runs up and he says, oh no, you can't be at that. You need to be inspired. And he rips off his shirt and flexes for them.
And it's just muscles.
And he's just like, you need the image of a perfect specimen to inspire you. And I was like, I so want to be a bard who runs in the middle of combat, and rips off his shirt and flexes and inspires everyone with a +1 on attack bonus. I was like, that is. Ugh.
I love it. I love it so much.
But that's it. But again, it's one-shots all about being. You got to be able to get out who your character is fast.
Mm-hmm.
In a longer campaign, you can take a lot more time, explore a lot more aspects, be a little more reserved with it. But then again, a lot of times what's really cool in a long campaign is when you are that flamboyant, but then you show there's depth. Great example. Again, since this is something I know everyone's watched.
Yeah.
Critical Role Campaign 1, Scanlan Shorehold. Okay? Very beginning of the season, always flamboyant. He never stopped being flamboyant.
He was the reason I almost stopped watching Critical Role.
Exactly. But then you developed more character.
And then you freaking fall in love with them.
And exactly. And so just because your flamboyancy works very well in the one shot doesn't mean it can't work in a long campaign.
Yeah.
You just got to make sure that there's a depth behind the flamboyancy in order to make the character interesting going forward. But you also think about it, I mean, depending on the campaign you want to run, there are books out there that have the characters aren't that interesting, but the story is really freaking interesting. Frodo is not an interesting character.
How dare you poo-poo Lord of the Rings?
I'm sorry, read the book. He's not very interesting. Sam is not interesting. Sam is way more interesting in the movie than he is in the books.
In J.R. Tolkien's defense, that was a very different time period.
It was, but
of literature.
Well, that's like I recently downloaded, and if you're if you've been a fantasy fan for a long time, you will be acquainted with this author. But I downloaded Belgrave. The Belgrave Chronicles, Pawn of Prophecy, which is by, let me get the name, David Eddings.
Oh, even I know David Eddings' name.
It is straight up story. The characters are like barely developed. It's almost like a bard telling old folks' tales in the way it's played out. Like, you don't go deep in the characters. I'm listening to getting some memories of nostalgia, Dragons of Nottingham Twilight. The characters are stereotypes. Completely.
They kind of are.
Well, they're meant to be. They're meant to be a D&D party, but you don't get a huge ton of depth, but you get some interesting, fun things and an interesting story.
Yeah. I want to point out what Darren said here. That he really likes the longer campaigns. It has tragedy and heartache and all the heroic acts and things like that. And he tends to focus more on love in all of its complex forms. And I love that because our longer campaign is 100% that. And the world that we're creating for our next campaign, what's the name of it?
Valitas.
It is all kind of based around like our relationship with each other and our personal lives, but the world itself is like pure fantasy. It's so cool. It's built on chaos and order and how the two of them clash. I'm so excited about playing this game. I'm like,
it's just gonna take me a couple months to write.
I know it's a couple of it's months away, like maybe May.
We gotta stop. Yeah, maybe.
But we also really like the more meaty RP storylines.
We love RP. We RP more than I think anyone else I know outside of maybe Critical Role. Yeah. We are heavy RP.
We are really heavy RP. And like when I was the one GMing, we did campaign like every 3 weeks, or not campaign. We did combat
every
3 weeks or so.
We'd go like 3 sessions without combat.
Yeah, most of the situations that I was putting you in were political. And you had to deal with
a lot of diplomacy checks and deception checks.
Yeah, that was fun. That was lots of fun.
But one other thing, just kind of going into, what makes a deep character?
Ben Sam is Bay. We do love Sam. Samwise Gamgee is like hashtag relationship goals. Like, for sure.
Samwise from the
movies.
Samwise from the books is a
little less noble.
Fairly two-dimensional. It's kind of...
Well, all of them are.
All of them Except for Tom Bombadil, you get plenty
Oh,
of him.
he's so cute.
So,
oh, wow.
One other thing that I recommend for characters, and this is something Hayley and I realized as we analyzed books, give your character a quirk, something that is kind of off from what you would expect, and suddenly makes them human, a hobby, an interest. One of the great examples I saw of this, there's a book series called Anita Blake, right?
The Anita Blake Vampire Hunter.
So she is a hard detective. She's a necromancer, actually. She raises the undead for them to be questioned by police in trying to identify killers and stuff like that. So fairly gruesome job.
It is a graphic novel
It is.
too. Like, it's not a graphic novel with like pictures. It's like the content is kind of
But
graphic
there is
at
actually a
different
graphic
times.
novel as well.
But there is an actual graphic novel. But yeah, it's a little much.
But that really is a really tough character. She collects stuffed penguins and has a collection of stuffed penguins in her house.
That she like really loves.
That just takes that character from 2-dimension to boom, 3-dimension. A great one. One of my favorite bad guys ever is Kingpin in Netflix's Daredevil.
Is so good.
But
He is amazing.
two things: his interest in art and his love for Vanessa suddenly make him more like his relationships, his love for Vanessa, and also his connection with Wesley, his right-hand man.
Yes.
Like, they are friends and loyal to each other, and that suddenly changes all that. Because you go to age-old Kingpin comic books, sacrifice anyone, who gets in my way. So that, so then suddenly to introduce him with this soft-spoken, very well put together man, and he's like, Wesley, I need you.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Like, can you take care of this for me?
Like,
And it's
he's so good. The performance is incredible.
It suddenly took him, and it's like, wait, Kingpin doesn't have anyone that he like leans on. Yes, he does, and that suddenly made him human.
Yeah. And that performance was that was incredible. And I do want to bring up the fact that character creation isn't just about playable characters. It's also about NPCs. Creating memorable NPCs can completely change the feel of a campaign and the feel of a specific city or town or environment or something like that. So, Weston, I want you to describe the NPC that we encountered this last week. This was so much fun.
So give me a second. Let me actually pull up the. Let's see if I've got
I know. He is amazing, John.
I've got to pronounce this name because this was actually one that was really cool. I was able to get this built. Someone volunteered. What was it?
No, I won a thing.
You want a thing? Okay.
I won like a giveaway of like, let me create your NPC for you. And so it's Mossy on Twitter, and he created, just Weston and him went back and forth in creating this character. And once it was actually brought to life, though, all of that was you. 100% you.
Yeah.
So I want you to kind of go through the process that you had in taking this NPC from the page and actually creating something that I will probably never forget.
So okay, I found the character right here.
It's a lot of fun, you guys. As if Weston can pull it up. So we're sponsored by Tabletop.
All
There we go.
So the name, I had to remember exactly how to say the name.
I know.
So he sent me, I wanted him to create a deep gnome or a Smurf Nebly is what they're called in Pathfinder. Smurf Nebly. They are deep gnomes.
Why? That is so...
That's actually lore. That's actually like, folklore appropriate name for them.
Hey, Roll Positive Gaming RPG. How are you? We're talking about NPCs and creating memorable ones. So Weston is going through how to create a memorable NPC.
So Upnassi Tradenmass is a deep gnome.
Wait, say the name one more time.
Upnassi Tradenmass.
One more.
Upnassi Tradenback.
Okay, one more time.
Upnassi Tradenback.
Okay, now for the people in back. Moving on. No, don't throw anything at me!
So,
I'm gonna put something in this Nerf.
have fun with that. Have fun finding when the dogs haven't eaten.
Find one.
So, Deep Gnome, the main thing I wanted is I wanted to throw in, honestly, I wanted to throw an NPC for you to buy stuff from.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted, as you went down into these
and to
depths,
confuse me deeply.
Yes. So we are heading into the Underdark or Darklands, depending on what game you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it'd be interesting to throw I've played a lot of video games where suddenly you find this traitor in this random spot.
And you're like, what?
Like Dark Souls has this, a lot of other ones. Suddenly there's this merchant in this weird place. Okay. So I wanted to throw one in there. And I was like, all right. So I threw this out to Mossy, who's like, okay, well, I'll make an NPC for you. And I was like, okay, I want a deep known traitor. And so he designed this character sheet for me. It's all built in 5e, so a lot of it I couldn't necessarily use. Like items were different and things like that. But I did use quite a few things. I love the name. I thought it was wonderful because it's definitely like, you won't be able to say it, but you'd be like, that one NPC, that one.
Hold on.
What?
I have to read what John said. I pronounce it with the sphere Nebulin being silent, so it sounds like deep gnome when I say it.
I love that.
I don't know why that's so funny to me, but it is. That's brilliant, John.
Oh boy.
And yes, it checks out. I agree.
But a couple of things he wrote on here I really loved. Like one is if you started trying to negotiate with her for a deal, she loves a gamble and she'd make you roll for it. Mm-hmm. And it'd be like, okay, let's see who can roll higher. And
so we had to play Rollies.
So a little bit of Rollies or type thing on there, which I thought was a very fun mechanic. It suddenly makes there be a roll there that's not just roll a diplomacy check. Mm-hmm. No, it's roll something different. It's
built into the actual character.
But I had, I voiced this very similar to a lot of my goblin voices, with this high-pitched sounding, squealing voice. But the part that made it interesting was riffing off of the way that the player reacted to my character.
Player being me.
So I have this character, and she's like, what you looking to buy? What can I sell for you?
And first off, I was very confused because I was like, where in my head we weren't close to her yet, and so like he starts acting like she's like having this long conversation with us, and I'm like, she can't even, what is going on?
Well, and you need to set the tone for the NPC. The way you first introduce the NPC will decide pretty much everything. Mm-hmm. How did I introduce the NPC?
You had her yelling at us.
No, very first thing that she did that you could hear.
Was she singing?
She was humming.
She was humming, yeah.
She's like just humming and singing in the background.
All alone, to herself.
In the middle of this dark, cavern.
Everybody does a squeaky, annoying voice for goblins. What if goblins actually sounded like Barry White? Oh, okay, I love that idea.
Have the goblins show up. Well, hello.
Well, hello there.
Look at your man. Now back to me. Back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he were a goblin, he could look like he was me. So, but
oh my gosh, yes.
I started out, I set the tone. The singing and little, just kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. And then shouting at us.
Well, she could see you. She's used
I know, and I didn't realize that.
Az has a halo around his head.
I know, but it's
shining light out all over the freaking place.
So it starts up into that, and my character has okay diplomacy, but she's very impatient, and she doesn't like doing the back and forth and the figuring things out. So she definitely pushed things a little bit and then was like, she gave up and she handed it over to the more diplomatic of the two of them, which was Az.
But the way you did this is what created the character. This moment created the character. And this is where NPCs in particular create the NPC your characters want to see.
The goblin your goblin could smell like. Oh my gosh. Okay. I think we're going to have to make this commercial, babe.
I think you will. But create, and this is a saying I think you should take to the bank right here. Create the NPC your players want to see. In this instance, she was a traitor. And then you did something, suggested something to the NPC in trade. What did you suggest to add to sweeten the deal, Hayley?
So Az has a spell. It's a dream message where, for those of you who don't do Pathfinder, it is when they send a message, and when the receiver of the message goes to sleep, they get the message, and it like comes to them as a dream. So I said to
Azamir, so he's very good looking.
Yes, he's incredibly good looking. And I say to the NPC that to sweeten the pot, to sweeten the deal, Az is really good at sending dream messages.
He can come visit you in your dreams.
I don't think I said that specifically.
Yeah, you did.
Did I really? Oh dear. Anyway, so I say this and it completely changes the dynamic of the interaction. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
So I took that and I said, and my brain suddenly went, wait. No, this character is now an older traitor. She's been around. She's sexually experienced. She's got lovers at all the different ports that she goes to. And so suddenly you're like, he can come visit you in dreams. Oh, really? Hey, they're good looking. And it's like suddenly she is this very forward one. And she even says to Anna, oh, don't you worry, honey. I got men all over the place.
It turned out really, really funny, but that was kind of the point that, like, you really took over the character off of the character sheet, and you weren't just, like, kind of playing this built role. It was, like, you made that very memorable. And then the other thing was that you would bring something out, we would barter on it, and then you would bring another thing out, and then we'd barter on it, and eventually my character was just like, screw this! Take everything out of your pack! I'm sick and tired of doing this onesie-twosie.
Well, the funny thing is, as I brought the stuff out, you could have
that escalated quickly. It did. It escalated very quickly.
It did. Well, but that's the thing is, let it escalate. If your players want to escalate it, escalate it. Mm-hmm. Don't ever hold back from where your players want to go, because if they want to go, and here's something I learned. I learned this in sales. I learned this in entertainment. They want to go here. Take them a little farther. Mm-hmm. The level of excitement they want to show, be a little more excited than they are. So you took it to there. Mm-hmm. So I took it the next level.
You went a little bit farther.
But you wanted to go that direction. You indicated you wanted to. So then when I took it even farther,
it was hilarious.
Then you loved it. And that is
awesome.
One thing with NPCs is
players always escalated.
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
And so if you just you can keep going a little bit. Now eventually there's a point where you gotta be like, okay, you've gone too far.
You're like, hey, that's enough. That's enough.
But that is the thing. That's why I said give them the NPC they want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can write your NPC, and you can be like, no, the NPC is this way.
Well, in World of Darkness, yeah, that anything is gonna get turned into an innuendo.
Yeah, definitely that.
No, I agree with that. What's an NPC that when I was GMing, what's an NPC that you would remember?
Michael was definitely memorable.
Okay, yeah, he was. It's so funny because I think about him and he was a fully fleshed out character for me, so it's like I forget that he was an actual NPC.
Yeah.
So I had a character when I was GMing. His name was Michael Sinclair, Sir Michael Sinclair. And he spoke with a French accent, and he was very flamboyant. He was a dress designer to the stars, to the queen, the domina, and to all of the people around. He had a little girl who was also an Azimir, and they had a very strong relationship, and there was a lot there. And he fell in love essentially with all of the PC with Az and with Anna, and brought them into their home. And he was a lot of fun to play because he would lose his mind over things like dresses and trying to teach Anna decorum and like how to interact in court. And she's like, WTF, why do I have to do this? Give me something to smash. He was a really fun character.
He was. I was a little intimidated taking over because his accent is so on point for you.
I don't know where it came from.
But a lot of times it is the characters who are to the extremes are memorable. Mm-hmm. Characters that are just kind of run of the mill, you won't remember them at all. But extreme characters, you remember.
Well, it's like Michael tried to have the talk with you, with Az.
He did.
He tried to have this, like, the talk, you guys. He tried to have the fatherly sex talk with Az because Az didn't have a parental figure in his life. So Michael kind of, like, took on this role for him. Uninvited. That was hilarious.
But also, like, throwing again, find your players and be like, okay, here's what my player is. Here's what my character, not player. Make sure you stick with what your player is comfortable with. Mm-hmm, yeah. But here's what their character is comfortable with. Here's what their character is not comfortable with. Give them lots of that. Whatever the character would not be comfortable with. That's like, Michael, the etiquette and everything like that. Anna was like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
She was definitely not one for etiquette and for like social rules and things like that. It was very, very big problem. Okay, RPG says the problem with memorable characters like that is they can command a bit too much of the spotlight. They can. That is very true. You have to be very careful to balance that.
Well, and this is more NPCs. At the moment with NPCs, like, that's what you gotta do. A overly flamboyant character in a long campaign will get really boring really fast.
Well, and it would get kind of annoying if there was never a shift into realism. Mm-hmm. I think that would be very frustrating to play a long-term campaign with someone that wasn't making that shift to realism.
Well, but then, sometimes it can be interesting. Now, I've only run, most of my stuff I've run are small with our family. So I've never run huge groups for long campaign.
No,
so I would definitely not be an expert in how to handle that. Mm-hmm. But I do have a managerial background.
He does.
If you've got a player who is extremely memorable, personal opinion, then you start writing stories that more engage the other players and would make that character a bit of a supporting cast.
Exactly. Darren says, I think in dealing, oh my gosh, why can't I find why? There it is. I think in dealing with organized play programs, there's a strive to make your characters memorable, but they are seen for a 4-hour spurt and with the potential of a variety of other players. Yeah. So like when you're creating a character for a short game like that, for like a 4 or 5 hour game, it's easy to do that more flamboyant, over the top type of character, and it doesn't become annoying. It's actually very endearing and fun.
Well, and John brings up something. All these NPCs come and go. So he says, if you just want the players to go there while you play the NPC show, that would be, gosh, I can't imagine having a NPC that's there enough to be the NPC show. Like, that's involved enough for it to be
the only ones that I can think of are ones that Matt Mercer has created.
Yeah. In
their games. Like, Essek was a full NPC. Like, a full part of the party. True. NPC, but that's like the,
because like even right now you've got 2 NPCs with us in the depths that are fighting with us, that are members of the party.
Zargrul and Alma.
Zargrul and Alma. And honestly, they don't do a whole ton other than give you some extra bodies to combat bigger
fight.
things.
No, but I could see that if you have a GM who is essentially turning a NPC into a GM PC, that's an issue. That's definitely a problem.
GMPCs in anything larger than 2-player. I could see in a 2-player maybe having a GM somewhat of that more GMPC-ish type thing. But if you've got anything more than that, heck no, get out of it.
No, yeah, no. John makes a point that Essek wasn't the hero. No, he was actually the traitor.
Yeah, he was.
For a little bit. But in terms of like an NPC that really becomes a part of the party, I feel like that's the only one that I know of on a large scale.
I heard of one campaign where they were defeated fighting some kobolds. And they found this kobold who didn't want to die, and so they talked to him, and then they convinced him to kind of like carry their packs. And he played the NPC very well and endeared to them. And so this NPC kind of stayed with them, but he carried their pack. He was kind of that, but he stayed through the whole campaign.
Holy cow,
because
that's
the
hilarious.
people just loved him so much. But he was written as a supporting character. And that is an important thing. You are there to support the player's adventure, not there to have an adventure of your own.
Yeah.
That's why I think it is important that GMs get out and play some.
Yes.
We ended up doing our thing with switching back and forth because I didn't want to always be GMing. I wanted to play.
Yeah. And I wanted to GM some too. We did learn though that I need to do shorter stints as a GM, that doing a longer, I think I did 12 sessions. Was just a little bit too much for me because I started to lose interest.
And I can GM very long.
Yeah, you can create a lot of things. Well, my problem was that like I kept finding storylines like hidden within the storylines.
So John was asking about this GMPC. It is where a GM NPC becomes a lot more front and center and is actually a party member. So in a lot of ways, they are almost a player character played by the GM.
Yeah.
They have their own backstory. They have their own... Everything that goes into this character creation we've talked about that you do for a player, they are doing all that, and they have their own backstory. They want to come out and all that stuff.
Yeah. Hi, RX. Hi.
Oh, we haven't done that.
But yeah, self-insert PC.
Yeah.
Yep. And Weston and I, we kind of, when we went into doing what we do, because we do something very unique with us switching off as GMs, our PC, when we're GMing, becomes an NPC.
We made a rule for ourselves that whoever is GMing, your PC at that time is not allowed to make any decisions for the party.
Yeah.
You can give bits of information. Or advice if it's requested, but you're not allowed to influence the decisions of what happens with the party in any way.
Yeah. So it keeps the character in with in the party and doing things, but it's still all on the PC to make the choice. And that's very unique for what we're doing and for playing 2-person games. Yeah. Which is super fun.
Which is why I say, if you're doing a 1-person, I can see doing that quote-unquote GMPC. But anything bigger than that, you don't need it. The only reason you generally have it is because a single player, if they can't fill all roles.
Yeah.
So giving them hirelings, giving them additional NPCs to go with them becomes very important.
Yeah.
And you're going to want to play those up a little bit. You're going to want to give them, some personality. You're going to want to make them have that party experience a little bit, which means you're going to need to role play them, which then they start to become a bit more of a GM'd PC.
Yeah, and I think that a really great way to start with creating a character, I mean, obviously you've got your character sheet, you're going to pick all your stats and your spells and your feats and whatever. Like, you're going to do all of that stuff, but then go find a questionnaire, a medical questionnaire online, and answer the questions for your character. Did you hear what I just said?
Say it one more time. I was reading the...
Yeah. Get a medical questionnaire online
Yeah.
and answer the questions for your character. So it's going to ask you things like simple generic ones like what's your birthday, what's like how tall are you, things like that. But then it's going to start asking things like, are you allergic to anything? And then you can sit and think about that. Like my character Anna, she's allergic to bees. It's not come into the game at all. Like it's not been...
I didn't know that.
Oh really?
I did not know that.
I could sworn we had a whole conversation about it.
I don't think so.
Oh, well, my character, she is allergic to bees. It hasn't come into the game at all, but she is allergic to bees. And, it'll give you a good idea of answering things that you wouldn't normally think of that are going to flesh out your character a lot.
Well, a lot of what fleshes out a character are the things that, what do they, what are they scared of?
Mm-hmm.
What are things that what's their best, if you had to come up with a childhood memory,
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to be, give me 4 pages of backstory.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I like Darren's too. Even a writing novel questionnaire works too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Writing novel questionnaires are great.
Acting ones as well, like character development, acting things help a ton. I think a place really to start if you're wanting to build a new character is figure out where it is that you connect the most with your character.
Yeah.
For me, it's the accents. It's their voices. Where are they from? And what's the voice that's associated with that area? And that is what starts keying me in on the character immediately.
Well, and let's talk about voices for a moment, because there's a lot of people that, again, because of the voice actors playing on these actual plays, there's definitely this idea that, I need to do a great voice in order to have a good NPC or good PC. You don't.
Nope.
There are ways to make your speech unique without doing an accent.
The heck?
They're talking about NPCs, shop owners, and things like that.
No, I just looked at our viewer count. Oh my gosh, the viewer count on my phone is like being super weird.
It says there's only 3.
Well, and that's wrong because I know that we've had it's been wrong in the past. Anyway, whatever. It's fine.
But oh gosh, what was I just saying? Now I completely lost my thought.
I'm sorry.
You derailed me.
I'm sorry.
Nope, I had it.
Accents, voice actors.
There are ways to make your speech different without an accent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, change the rhythm.
Change the rhythm of the way you talk. Great example of this. Christopher Walken does not really have an accent. He just talks in a weird cadence. Like,
I need more cowbell.
Yeah, I need more cowbell. Like, so if you just suddenly your syncopation's all off on the way you talk.
Weird. Yeah, that's true. Or you can change the timbre of your voice a little bit. So it's just raise it up just a little bit or put it down in your chest voice just a little bit.
Zagrul is just me in my deepest voice.
Mm-hmm. It's your morning voice.
I just woke
Actually,
up
your voice is not that deep when you're...
it's not.
That's the morning.
This is I'm sick voice.
Yes, that's exactly what that voice is. Oh my gosh, so true. Yeah. I also use accents extensively.
Yeah.
And Izzy is from the deep south, and my character from this last weekend, her name was Jessie de Riva, and she was a Russian and Spanish, very strange accent, but it was very fun to play.
Well, and I know I researched...
And Anna's British.
There's an NPC I introduced for only one episode, but I actually studied quite a bit to introduce the Mwangi doctor. That I was in the warehouse,
yeah. You studied the
Afrikaan.
Yeah, the Afrikaan accent.
How the if you're from Africa and you're speaking English, kind of what's the cadence there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do use accents a lot, but for a lot of people, they're like, I don't do accents. Okay, don't do accents then. Catchphrases are great. Sayings. Come up with some colloquial sayings from wherever it is you're from that can be really weird.
Yes.
Well, it's even where we're at here. So we're in Utah. Okay.
What?
Most people, a lot of the people here are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They don't curse. So we've got some really weird pseudo curses that are said here.
Holy frick.
Well, I was thinking more, I knew one guy who's like holy bean dip.
What?
Yep, I knew a missionary, a guy on when I went on service, he'd always say holy bean dip. I'm like, where? Why? I don't know. But hey, there you go.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
I know in Robert Jordan's world for Wheel of Time, you got blood and bloody ashes. You got burn me. Like, make up some colloquialisms that you want to throw in there.
The Stormlight Archives is like Stormfather and...
yeah, they're curses, you know?
Yeah.
Come up with some of those, and then suddenly you're unique. So it doesn't have to be accents. You can do stutters. You can do... if you're a little kid, just say everything really loud.
my 12th grade English teacher would say pumpernickel as her euphemism.
Yes.
I like that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I had a teacher at university that she would say hot dog whenever it was something exciting. She'd be like, well, hot dog.
Yeah, you see?
I mean, and she had this really breathy voice too, so it was just like, well, hot dog.
Sounds like it was like a Mickey Mouse type.
I know. It was so incredible, and she was so genuine and the sweetest woman. Oh my gosh, I loved her.
But that's, making your character unique and even sound unique doesn't have to be an accent. It can be the words you use. It can be saying a funny saying. That's why I love the catchphrase question. What would be your character's catchphrase? Because you can throw that in there.
I am here.
Yes, exactly.
If you know what
Thank
that's
you,
from, you get extra bonus points.
But cadence of your talk, volume that you speak at, high or low voice, all those are different ways to separate your character without having to do an accent.
Yeah. And I do feel like, and you can not agree with this, and that's totally fine, and we can still be friends. Just want to say that right now. But I think it is a bad idea. It is not a good choice as a GM to not do some type of variance in your speech when you're talking between NPCs.
I'll agree with that. Especially if you're doing something to where there's a lot of like diplomacy checks, where there's a lot of intrigue, where there's a lot of role play there, possibly with multiple NPCs. Because if you've got 3 NPCs in a room, I'm sorry,
they've got to talk to each other.
You've got to talk to each other differently.
Well, I remember one of the final episodes of Critical Role Campaign 1 has all of the the council is together, and there's 7 or 8 different NPCs that were all in the room together, and everyone applauded Matt for his ability to flip between the voices, and they're interrupting each other and stuff like that. Like, he did such a beautiful job. But that's like so difficult to do. My tongue got so confused when I had 3 NPCs together, or 2 NPCs and then Anna together fighting with each other about something. That was awful.
Well, and it actually forces you as a GM to really work on, okay, how different do I make my voices? Because you'll get mixed up in your own head.
So the I Am Here RPG is from All Might, from the show My Hero Academia. It's a anime. And that was his catchphrase. Like, every time he would show up to save the day because he was a superhero, he'd say, I am here.
Yes.
And it's really over the top and stupid.
It is not stupid.
Yes, it is. Yeah. But yeah, so, I mean, having some type of variance in your speech, I think, is needed.
Or you just make sure you set up your campaign to where you never have more than one NPC in the room at the same time. That would be like the only other option that I could think of. Now,
that's true.
A lot of times when you've got when you have a party of 4 or 5, there's going to be a lot of banter between them that takes time in between. For ours,
it's just us.
The amount of times that I've got, because I'm always got the amount of time that I'm voicing 2 to 3 NPCs is consistent.
Yeah. And when I was in that same seat, that's exactly the same thing it was for me, because I had like the Domina and then Dominic and then a guard and then Anna and like whole things. I mean, my PC pretty much did nothing. She never said anything. Like,
Darren brings up an interesting thing, an interesting thought of a visual representation. You can have colored flags to distinguish different NPCs.
That's actually not a bad idea.
If you really have a hard time, even go make a little paper mache masks. It's like
that actually be kind of
old school Greek style. Where you just hold up the
my
mask.
gosh! Yes.
That's possible. That's another way to distinguish. Maybe you're really artistic, crafting wise, but you're not very good at voices. Like, well, but you can go make masks, and suddenly it's like you put on the mask. That would also help you with getting into character, I imagine, wearing that. So there's lots of, that is another great idea and great ways to find visual ways to represent the different characters if you are unsure about doing accents and voices.
Yeah, I know for us, because we also create a podcast, having the voices is very important. And that is one thing that has been pointed out to us by some of our listeners who listen to the podcast exclusively and they don't watch the show, is that they like the fact that we change voices for all of the NPCs because they can keep track of who's talking.
Yeah, I have to keep track of who's talking. So
I know.
That's part of the reason why I know voices for us has been a big thing. Because I'm like,
who's talking?
Honestly, because I'm talking to myself, if I didn't change voices every time, I would get confused in my own head of which of me is talking.
Well, and see, that's not as hard for me because I was a writer for years.
And an actress.
So it's like I constantly have other voices in my head. Not in a weird way. Like, I don't have psychosis or anything.
But maybe in a weird way.
But no, not in a weird way. Do you want to sleep on the couch tonight? Wait, no, I want to sleep on the couch tonight in front of the fireplace. Never mind.
Okay.
So those are a couple of things that you can do to create really memorable characters, either NPCs or PCs. And I love creating a new character. I don't like going through the character creation part, if that makes sense. I don't like picking the feats and
the part
the
that
spells
all of us
and
love.
The part that everybody else loves. I would prefer that somebody like build the first couple of levels for my character and then just hand it to me.
And picked all your spells.
And that's what I'm saying. The first couple of levels.
I've started
and
building,
then I'll take over.
Because like for her last stream, that character
Weston
she played, I built that character. I helped her pick the spells. Like that's
my character for Jasper's Game Day charity stream was totally created by Weston.
Now
paper.
Yes.
I'm the one that created the personality, but Weston created her on paper with the spells and stuff. Because I get overwhelmed very easily by that kind of stuff.
She gets choice paralysis.
Well, it is PF2 after all. Okay, look here, Darren.
Them's fighting words.
Them's is you're throwing punches.
She gets this way with the D&D ones too.
No, I'm exactly the same with D&D. I just get overwhelmed with when we play RPGs, I literally just hit like the randomize and okay, like on gaming. Because I don't like going through, I don't care how big the nose is or the sliders. You know which one I'm talking about.
If you've heard of the new Conan game, sliders will have meaning to you.
It's so bad. Anyway, that part I don't like.
I know. You don't like picking your feats. You don't like any of that.
No.
It's weird, but
I'm a strange, because the thing that I love about gaming, about tabletop gaming, is not the build of it's the role playing of the characters.
See, but for me, the two go so hand in hand.
See, and as an actress, you get handed a character.
Yes.
And you get told, "Okay, bring this character to life." So it's much more comfortable for me to have someone just hand me a character and say, "Okay, go bring this character to life."
Whereas like mine, the whole idea for Az came from one thought. Ooh, if I'm
Speaking of euphemisms, sliders is a good one. Mm-hmm.
If I was, I came from one thought. How do I get the most spell options I could? And it came by being a cleric of Nethys, because as Nethys, you get access to arcane. Mm-hmm. But then you're a cleric, so you get divine. Mm-hmm. So I got both. And that's where all of that was born from.
And we dual classed.
Then when we dual class, I even got
You chose an additional spellcaster.
Then I took an arcane class there, so it was just like all mixing together. And that's where all that idea. And then it's like, okay, how would he be? Why is he worship Nethys? What's his reason for choosing that god? And that's where things started to develop. Is I take it and say, okay, here's the class they are. Here's kind of their power focus. Why? Why are they? Why? Okay, they're a dragon blood sorcerer. Okay, why do they have dragon blood? How does that affect their lives? How has their life been different, and how has it affected them having that dragon blood in them? Oh, you have this ability where when you use a spell, suddenly you get claws and, scales. How did that affect them as a child?
Yeah.
First time they cast a spell, and then suddenly the neighbors...
Spell.
They cast a spell, and then all of a sudden their neighbors saw them with, scales. Oh, that would have been great for getting bullied as a kid.
I know. Let's just talk about the fact, though, that we had our son, our 9-year-old, who started playing a character that had dragon-born blood or whatever, and it was, supposed to be, this secret thing, and he could not go a single session.
Hey,
session
a dragon.
Without talking about it and saying, you may not like me very much, but I have dragon blood. And we're like, oh my gosh, Michael, we know.
Which that's another, like we talked about, make things that are, okay, you don't do unique accents. Yeah, but I talk about being a dragon all the time. Okay, we know who's talking because there's mentioning being a dragon.
He was so cute. Because Nethys is a neglectful god daddy. So Az gets to roam free without consequences. Kind of. But my character is a champion of Pharasma, who, she's the closest D&D equivalent is the Raven Queen.
Yeah.
To Pharasma. But Pharasma is a little bit more neutral.
It depends on which... There's a couple different pantheons.
Yeah.
There, depending on which world you're in.
Yeah, but the one that I feel like most people know is the Critical Role one.
That's definitely one we know. I mean, I don't know a ton about the other worlds.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so mine, she is very neutral, but she also will get involved really quickly if you mess with certain things, like the River of Souls. And,
that's about the only thing she'll get involved
in. And Judgment. She'll get involved in that instance, but otherwise she's completely neutral. And her people kind of just do whatever.
Destroy the world, whatever.
Nethys needs to crack the whip. Anyway, okay. It is.
I'm going to recap a couple of things.
We're going to recap.
1, find a motivation for why your player's even going to care about going on this adventure. 2, take all of your abilities and say, how can I change the visuals of those and the effects, not the game effects, but the visual effects of that spell to make them personable to my character.
How does my character perform that task?
Fill out a medical sheet, allergies and all those different
Family
stuff.
history.
Give them a quirk, something that's off, something that's wow, I wouldn't have thought that because
we all have those.
We do.
We have those quirks in real life that you don't know until you get married to your spouse. And then you learn all those quirks.
Yep.
And some of them are not pleasant. And some of them are fine.
Okay. That was an interesting drop. But yes. So give them those quirks, ticks, weird movements that they do or things like that. It's Az casts message all the time.
Oh my gosh, and it drives my character. It drives Anna crazy.
I
am literally standing across from you.
Yeah, but I'm used to not talking out loud. So okay. But give them those quirks. Give them moments to shine. And as a GM, make sure you give every player a moment to shine.
Yeah, there needs to be spotlights on everybody. Yes. Which is what makes it nice when it's just the two of us, because we don't really have to worry about that on that much.
No, we don't. We get to avoid all that.
Which is nice. It's just a thing. I do like your suggestion, RPG, that I workshop character backstories with each of my players even before session 0.
Yeah,
I think
like
that's a really good idea because then it gives you as the GM a lot of wiggle room. You know a lot about the characters, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, and it also, I know for someone like you, it also helps you, the player, know their character's abilities and how to use them beforehand.
Yeah, for sure. Because especially with Pathfinder, Darren. Was that Darren? Who said that? Hold on, I've got to go back. It was Darren.
Zem's fighting words.
Darren. There is a lot. There's feats at almost every level, and there's abilities at every level in different ways. It's either an ancestor or a skill or a class feat or what. Like it's
3.5 is, I think, a little more.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah. But it also lets you do a lot of things that Pathfinder 2nd Edition requires you to have a feat to do, and D&D there's no game mechanic at all for you to do it.
Yeah.
So
many feats. I know. Pathfinder is a little bit crunchy, but I will say one thing about Pathfinder that I do really enjoy, and it messed with me when I went to playing D&D, because like most of the one-shots I've played are D&D. Is that I expected it to be way more complicated, and so it was very difficult for me to understand. Like, I really struggled when we were doing Wheel of Time because I couldn't understand the action, move, bonus action thing because I was so used to just the 3 actions, you do whatever you want. Now I had to know how everything was, but in the 3-action economy, there was also crap ton of things that I could do. And there weren't as many choices, but it was different. I was so screwed up that first couple of weeks of playing D&D. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But that's because I started on Pathfinder and not on D&D.
Which is better.
Yeah. I've play tested all of the above. I prefer more narrative games. Yeah. Well, and that depends on just how you GM and what your players want. And we're definitely storytelling role players.
We are.
Over.
I think we'd like to do some of the more narrative systems later on.
Yeah.
But let's be honest,
I want to do
everyone.
VTM really bad.
Yeah, let's be honest, everyone. We've got a show here, and more people know D&D than anything else.
Yeah, we kind of want eyeballs. We would like people to watch our show. And if the people are with the D&D, we will go to where the people are in D&D.
We must do it for the people.
For the people. Anyway, thank you so much, you guys, for joining us tonight for our discussion about how to make characters not suck. It's been a wonderful discussion, and I'm so glad that you guys were all in the chat. I know someday VTM, I want to do it so bad. So bad.
Yes.
Anyway, so just as a reminder, Friday night at this same time, 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on this channel is a continuation of the Scions.
Isn't it Mountain Daylight Time now?
Standard Time.
So winter is standard?
Winter is standard. When we do the change thing in fall, that's daylight.
You mean when we do the change thing in spring?
So it's the fall.
Then that means that we're in daylight right now.
No, it means we're in standard. Daylight is when they change the time, and then when we go back to normal time, it's standard.
Everyone, I'm really confused.
Anyway, 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time here on this channel. We're doing the Scions. It's a continuation of our dungeon crawl. Hopefully we get to the hags this week and kill the living daylights out of them.
Oh, you'll wait and see.
Anyway, there's going to be some really cool terrain, so come in and watch.
Yes.
And all that stuff. I don't think we have anything else. Oh, and go subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Go subscribe, YouTube.
Hold on. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, go subscribe because we're trying really, really hard to get to 100 subscribers.
Because we don't want the alphanumeric URL. We want
a vanity URL so bad. We're really close. We have 19. We have 19 subscribers left to get to 100.
So go subscribe.
Go
and
subscribe. Share. Go subscribe, share, retweet. Do all of the things.
Do the clicky clicks.
Yep. And remember, we love you.
And remember, it only takes 2.
Mwah. Good night, you guys.
And
maybe. I don't know.